Chapter 80. Zhang Ruozu's words left both old Elle and Zhang Xihan's a bit stunned. However, the situation was so urgent that there was no time for too much thinking. Took 3 deep breaths and rushed out with a piece of broken glass in hand. At this moment, Tizhao was taking off his coat and tying it around his arm, trying to deal with the 2 men. Tizhao, I've come to help you. Zhang Xihan raised the broken glass and stood beside Kuzhou. Help me? Are you crazy? Kuzhou said through gritted teeth. Run away. It's okay. Zhang Xihan seemed to be comforting himself. Seeing that Kizhou was the blonde-haired thug immediately rushed forward. As long as he could thrust the knife into the other's chest at this critical moment, everything would be over. Kizhou, watch out. Zhang Xihan also took a step forward, closed his eyes tightly, and then randomly thrust the piece of broken glass forward. The blonde-haired thug couldn't help but find it funny when he saw this. Did the other person really think he could kill someone with this piece of glass? He sidestepped to avoid the woman in front of him, but unexpectedly stepped on a metal box on the ground. His body tilted, and he immediately lost his balance. Then he lunged forward and hit his throat on the piece of broken glass. Cough. The blonde-haired thug immediately spat out a lot of blood. Kuzhou was stunned for a moment and quickly pushed the blonde-haired thug away. Once separated from the broken glass, his throat was like an open faucet, gushing blood. Eli. The bald-headed man roared and quickly stepped forward to support his companion. The bald-headed man kept using his hands to block the wound on the blonde-haired thug's throat. Looking very panicked, Kuzhou was also still in shock as he watched the scene. That metal box was the one he had dropped on the ground when he attacked the green-haired thug before. He didn't expect it to be of great help at this moment. What a lucky coincidence. Zhang Xihan finally opened his eyes at this moment and suddenly found that his hands were covered in blood. She was so frightened that she quickly dropped the piece of broken glass in her hand. She had previously boasted about killing people, but now that she had actually killed someone, Zhang Xihan, who was originally a lawyer. Without hesitation, Kuzhou immediately picked up the dagger that the blonde-haired thug had dropped on the ground. At the same time, Zhang Xihan dropped the glass fragment. The battle wasn't over yet, and they couldn't afford to let their guard down. You bastards are looking for death. The bald-headed man roared like a madman and then raised the dagger and swung it as he charged over. Kuzhou immediately pushed Zhang Xihan into the room and then took several big steps back. This kind of an organized attack was the hardest to avoid because there was no way to know where the other person was going to attack. Try his best to keep a distance from the bald-headed man. However, Tizhao was standing at the end of the corridor after all. In just a few steps, he was already forced into a corner. Although both sides were holding daggers, TXIA's only thought was to save his life, while the other person was like the rabid dog that had lost its mind. I'll fight you to the death. The bald-headed man swung the dagger down hard, and Kuzhou quickly dodged to the side, taking advantage of the moment when the other person missed. Kuzhou immediately and decisively slashed the other person's arm. Kuzhou knew that the slash was very deep and seemed to have cut to the bone. If you want to die, then come on, Kuzhou threatened. The bald-headed man didn't care about the pain of the wound at all. He raised the knife and turned around to stab Kuzhou in the heart. Kuzhou knew that there was no time to dodge, so he quickly lowered his body. The knife that was supposed to stab his heart instead stabbed into his shoulder. He let out a muffled groan of pain and immediately stabbed his dagger towards the other person's abdomen. But in the next second, the bald-headed man stretched out his left hand and firmly blocked TXIA's blade. The dagger also mercilessly pierced through his palm. Do you think you can kill me? The bald-headed man glared and said viciously. Have you ever killed anyone? Before Kuzhou could answer, the bald-headed man immediately twisted the dagger in TXIA's shoulder hard, and a large piece of flesh was gouged out. Kuzhou let out a painful scream, and the pain was so intense that he was almost on the verge of fainting. At this moment, a fat figure suddenly rushed over and hugged the bald-headed man tightly from behind. The bald-headed man was stunned, and the dagger in his right hand slipped out. Damn it. The bald-headed man realized that the person hugging him was Old El. He became even angrier. It was you who destroyed our key, right? Although Old El was very scared, he still held onto the other person tightly. He knew that once he let go, Kaizhou would surely die. The bald-headed man turned his left hand over, pulled the dagger out of the flesh on his hand, and then stabbed it into Old L's ribs. Old El was stunned and only felt something cold piercing into his flesh. He had never experienced this kind of feeling before. The bald-headed man gritted his teeth, pulled the dagger out and stabbed several more times. Only then did Old El finally feel the bone deep pain. Old El was trembling all over, but he still didn't let go. He opened his mouth and bit the bald-headed man's shoulder, then turned his head hard and actually tore off a large piece of flesh along with the skin. The bald-headed man howled in pain and picked up the dagger, preparing to finish off Old El. At this time, Lin Ken appeared out of nowhere and stabbed his arm with a piece of broken glass. Tizhao, Old El will die if you don't do something, she shouted in a panicked voice. This shout woke Tizhao up, who was on the verge of fainting. Although his entire left side of the body had lost sensation, this was definitely not the time to collapse. After he saw clearly the situation in front of him, his face changed in shock. Without hesitation, he pulled out the dagger from his own shoulder, let out a roar and stabbed it into the bald-headed man's neck. The bald-headed man instantly lost his strength, and several people also fell to the ground due to exhaustion. Old El. Tizhao pushed the bald-headed man aside and quickly checked on Old L's condition. Just by taking one look, TXIA's voice began to tremble. Old El, how are you? Old El was lying on the ground, twitching continuously, and his left ribs were already a bloody mess. Lad, you're not too smart at this critical moment. Old El gave a bitter smile, and his face was already extremely pale. Yes, I'm not as smart as you. Tizhao stretched out his trembling hands and tried hard to cover Old L's wound, but blood was still flowing out from between his fingers. Old El, don't die. I haven't returned the ticket to you this time. How the hell would I die? Old El sighed and said, Tila, if you knew my real name, you definitely wouldn't worry about me. What's it called? I'm telling you, don't laugh. Old El gave a bitter laugh. Whenever I told others my real name before, they would all laugh. I won't laugh. I promise I won't. Tizhao was trying to stop Old L's bleeding, but the bald-headed man had been so ruthless that the bleeding couldn't be stopped at all. My name is El Fengxian. Old El gave a few dry laughs. It's the name my parents gave me. Doesn't it sound like I won't die? You're fucking LBU reincarnated. Of course he won't die. Crouched on the ground trembling continuously, until his head was splitting with pain, until Old El stopped moving. Kaizhou pulled Old El in front of him and said in a low voice, There are a few things I need to tell you. Tell me? Old El was a bit confused. Tila, do you have some kind of plan? The game is about to start. Hurry up and tell me. Tizhao thought for a while after hearing this and then said, It's not really a plan. Old El, if they invite you to join them, you can agree. What? Old El was stunned for a moment and then understood. A scheme within a scheme. Right? I'd agree first and then take them down from the inside. No. Tizhao shook his head. Old El, let's part ways here. I've thought about it carefully. We've only known each other for a short time. If we risk our lives for you, the whole team won't feel at ease. Tizhao explained seriously. So the best way is for you to leave the team in advance. Once there's a confrontation, we'll all be under less pressure. You? Old L's expression looked a bit disappointed. Although he was a middle-aged, fat uncle, he looked as aggrieved as a child. Sorry, Old El, I'm just making the right choice. Tila, Old El suddenly interrupted. You said you can't risk your lives for me, but I can. What? Whatever plan you have, don't act on it for now. I'll show my sincerity at the first opportunity. You can make a decision after seeing it. It won't be too late, Old El said. But if we don't accept you at the last moment, you'll die. Tixiang said, you're not that kind of person. Oh, Dell smiled naively. Dell have been selling socks all my life. I'm pretty good at judging people at critical moments. Just wait and see. Blah. Tixiang shook his head helplessly. Even though you say so, I still won't fully trust you. I'll have to see your performance first.